Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're going to get started today. Thanks for coming and attending our webinar, X's and O's, Building Your Tactical Inbound Marketing Game Plan. I promise I will not put football references throughout this whole webinar. It is that time of year, though, isn't it? Whoops. My name is Becky Vardaman with Converge Consulting. I am our VP of Strategy here, and I spend a lot of time working on inbound marketing with clients across the country, really focusing in on things like analytics and SEO and content development. If you ever see me speak at a conference, it's usually about analytics. I'm a little bit of a data geek. I'm really excited to do this type of webinar where we get to bring in somebody like Jill, who has been doing this stuff day in and day out and has some real best practices from the field. So I'm going to let Jill Wright from Hinds Community College give us just a couple of sentences about herself as well.
Hi, I'm Jill Wright. I am the Director of Web Communications at Hinds Community College. Basically, I am a data nerd myself, and I oversee a few people. We are inbound marketing, web development, and data people.
Wonderful. And thank you so much, Jill, for joining us today. I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about what you guys are doing.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. A quick note about Converge. We're a higher education inbound marketing firm. As I mentioned, we really focus on things like inbound, Google Analytics, research, strategic communications practices with clients across the country. And I'll let Jill talk a little bit more about Hinds. Sorry.
Hinds Community College is, we're actually located in Jackson, Mississippi. We're the largest community college here and the fourth largest IHL in the state, including, private, public, four-year colleges. We have 6 locations. We actually serve 5 counties, but we enroll students from 77 counties. We're large. We have about 31,000 students in academic, career, technical, workforce. We also have adult basic education and GED. We have about 120 university programs. Basically, we have 2+2 agreements with most, actually all of the 4-year universities in Mississippi. And then we have 2-year or 1-year career and technical programs. And like I said, we do adult ed and GED as well.
Wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about your web team.
Okay. My boss is the Vice President for Community Relations and Governmental Affairs, and our web team is actually part of a larger division, Community Relations, and it includes, PR, printing, and everything else in the world. But I report to her as the Director of Web Communications, and then I have a team of 3 guys right now. We have a Web Content Specialist, someone totally that's devoted to social media, and then we have a digital marketing specialist, and actually we could not find somebody that that had the skill set that I was looking for. We interviewed a lot of people, so we are growing our own digital marketing specialist, and he is doing a great job.
Wow. Yeah, we hear that a lot from folks, that really it's hard to find those specific skill sets.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So today we're actually recording this webinar. It'll be available afterwards. We'll send everyone who signed up an email, and it'll be on our website, so don't worry about trying to jot down things quickly. Also, we're going to take questions at the end, so we definitely tried to leave some time for that. So if you have questions, feel free to put them into the chat as we go, but by all means, we're going to probably go back and catch those at the end. Today we're going to go through what is inbound marketing, so everybody's on the same page. We're going to talk about where you start with it, what you should expect down the road as far as results, optimizing some of those limited resources, how to prove ROI, And Jill has some great examples for us to really make this real about what they've been doing on their campus. So I think a lot of us understand that things have changed a lot in the last, obviously 15 years, but even in the last 5 and 3-4 years, really the audience has taken control through the internet and through accessibility. Like even the basic things that we do in day out, like watching television, Netflix has come in and taken over, and it's bigger than HBO domestically now. Spotify and Pandora are growing. Everyone wants things on demand when they want it, really at the user's request. This also translates through to all of our marketing efforts. People want to have, they don't want to be sold, right? They want to have control. We define inbound marketing as really creating marketing that people are going to love. So it's about creating really good content and earning that attention by having customized content that's really valuable to your target audience, which of course means you have to know your target audience. It's about making yourself easily found through search engine optimization and being in the right places. Of course, knowing your audience. Our goal here is to get the right message to the right person at the right time. If you really could summarize inbound marketing, that's what we're really trying to do, is make sure that you're talking to the right person about the right thing so they feel like they're in control, and giving them control as much as possible. And then we like to guide them through these different 3-phase process of attracting, converting, and delighting. So the way we talk about inbound at Converge is really taking strangers, attracting them to your website. Your website is your hub of everything. So if you've heard of HubSpot, the really popular inbound marketing software, hub is deliberate in their title, right? It's the hub of all of your marketing activities. So bringing them in, whether it's through organic search, whether you've created beautiful, wonderful, strategic content to fill some voids, whether you're really active in social media, those are some great practices. Once they're visitors on your site, we want to convert them, whether it's through calls to actions, great landing pages, and accurate forms that keep information about them. And then additionally, we want to delight them. We want to take these people and make sure that they're still in control and that we're honoring and respecting our users with segmented content, ongoing engagement, and of course, a wonderful user experience, which will take those strangers and move them all the way to hopefully happy alumni who are promoting you to other people. We know a couple of stats that support the rise of inbound marketing. Budgets are on the rise. Nearly 50% of marketers increased their inbound budgets for 2013. This is a survey that HubSpot did in 2014. So we know that people are spending more money on this. We know that team members or teams are starting to grow. Most of the inbound marketing teams that we see out there are in that 1 to 5 person range. So Jill's group is right in line. I'd be interested to hear in the Q&A afterwards if anybody has any huge teams or tiny teams. And then additionally, we have statistics out there that prove to us that inbound, social media, SEO, we know that these things are tough. We know that they require effort, but the reason we're doing them is that statistically we can see that they really do generate those low cost per lead. So it's worth it, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Oops, there we go. Bear with me as I'm passing over the controls to Jill.
All right, I'm in control. That's scary.
Yeah.
Okay. In higher ed, we have a little bit of a different marketing funnel than traditional marketers that sell a product. So what we try to do is bring visitors to our site, convert those people to leads, get them to apply, enroll, sit in a seat, and eventually complete. So we kind of use the funnel to drive people through from beginning to end. Now I wanted to talk some about how to get buy-in. I know that it can be difficult to do. You're taking my control away. I'm scared.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right. So the first thing that really has to happen, or it's been my experience, is that sometimes we walk into a mess, and we really have to get our ducks in a row before any sort of buy-in can happen. For us, the first thing we did was make sure that our analytics were installed correctly. We had to segment our students, faculty, and staff out. We actually did that with an IP range. We always keep a raw data set of everybody just for backup, and then we have a lot of different segments depending on things that we want to know. And one thing I think that is most important for buy-in is to go in Google Analytics and set it up so that you can actually show what your website is worth. So you need to know how much a student, an application, a download, and all sorts of events on your site, what they're worth. So you can actually go in Analytics and add value to your conversions, events. I believe on the next slide, the value of a student. It's different for all sorts of colleges. So I put a few things here that are important to find out, and sometimes it takes a while because you have to go to 15 different people to really figure out how your institution works. If you're doing lifetime, it's good to have the average semesters the student attends, your tuition. If for the private schools, if there's any discounts. For those of us who have weird funding formulas, you have to know that kind of thing. If you have tuition changes, you have to remember to go in and change all of that. You can figure out your cost and profit per credit, and you have to know your conversion rate or your acceptance rate of applicants. And then you have to know how much it costs to actually get an acquisition, how much it costs to bring a student in to sit in a chair. So here's just a little example. For lifetime value, you can use your average semesters and multiply that by how much you charge in tuition and either add or subtract other factors such as discounts and things like that, and then subtract your cost per acquisition. And you can also break that down to a semester, tuition plus or minus other stuff, and then minus cost per acquisition. So here's sort of an example. You would plug your own numbers in here, but I just use example numbers. If you have a student value of $3,500 a semester, and 65% of your applicants actually convert, your application value would be, 3,500 times 0.65. So a completed application would be worth $2,275. And you can do that, kind of go through the same steps for every action. Whether it's a download, you can kind of work backwards. Once you know this basic stuff, you can assign value to different actions. And this is just an example of, we have it set up so that it actually shows us conversions when people actually end up on our application. The last page, it says thank you for completing your application. When they end up there, it actually tracks it, and that is tied to a number, some dollar signs. Another thing to do is to know your prospects, and we collect a lot of information about our students and even visitors to our site. You can go in Google Analytics and see the demographic information of visitors. You can get contact information on forms. Different departments keep up with academic performance and success, attendance, financials. And we actually use some data from social media analytics and, of course, Google Analytics to see what our visitors and students are interested in. And then we also take a very close look at what people do on our site. So we can look at, a certain segment and see the flow of how they go through our site. Then you really define personas of your college, who you serve. HubSpot has actually just come out with the personas tool, and it's taken us a while to figure all of this out. We have our adult students that are a certain age. We have businesses who may want to train their workforce. We have some services. We have a career coach site. And, we don't want to be emailing people that are just using it to look at jobs if they're not interested in furthering their education. We have current or returning. We have dual enrollment for people interested in earning, their high school diploma and getting college credits at the same time. People interested in getting their GED. We segment out employees who sometimes come through and download things. Parents researching for their kids. Some people who have attended in the past but aren't current right now. We have people who are going to a four-year college and want to transfer to us, and then we have, the traditional first-time students.
Hey, Jill.
Yeah.
Could you talk a minute about that tool and talk about how you guys set that up in HubSpot?
Yes. Actually, it's a fairly new tool, and I'll show kind of how we got people to put themselves in categories in a minute. But we actually, looked at the demographics of our contacts within HubSpot and put them into lists, and really, we actually still are working on personas, because sometimes we figure something out and we're like, there's something else we can add in there. But just looking, at the contacts that we have, we've at least come up with this many. And I'll say that we're doing a website redesign right now, and it's really affected the way that we have designed our navigation, because we'd really like to take all of these people on a journey through our website in a way that pertains to them. So, but I'll talk more about how I actually got people to put themselves into categories.
Cool. Thank you.
And, the more you learn about your personas, the people that visit your site, you can personalize messages to them. If you have an adult student who has downloaded information about a certain program, you can actually put them in a list for that program. So say you have somebody who would be an adult student and they've downloaded information about nursing. We have it set up to where they actually go into a nursing interest list. So we can send content and personalize that with their own interests based on their situation and things like that. Now, I've put this in the buy-in area, closed loop marketing. Basically, I don't know if everybody is in the same boat, but I think in higher ed in general, we all have, different ERPs, we have different CRMs, and it can be difficult to get them all to integrate together. So we're actually still working on this, because we really want to know, of our contacts, of the people that we've brought in, how many of them have started an application, how many of them have enrolled. And we can do that manually, but it takes so long, it's crazy. So we have worked with a third party to get this going, and he promises me every day that it's going to be done that day. So I'm hoping this is done soon.
I don't think you're alone.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes you have to go through some steps to get things going and do other things along the way. And this is again talking about the CRM. For those of you who use Salesforce and things like that actually make sense. It wouldn't be a hard thing, but in higher ed you have a lot of CRMs that are higher ed specific, and sometimes that's a lot more difficult to do than using things that are fairly standard in marketing in general for people who are selling products or services. So I suggest doing this before all of those things and what I'm about to talk about before you even approach anybody to get buy-in. Prepare some content, make some landing pages with forms, and set up some workflows to to talk to people. Basically, start with a small case study if that's what you want to do. You want to create content that's specific to people, that is valuable to them in their situation. Also, things that answer their questions, and our personas have different pain points, different issues and life circumstances. So if you're creating content, you're going to create different content for somebody that's interested in getting their GED than you would for somebody who's transferring from a 4-year college back to us. So basically, you have to make sure that your search engine optimization is good to go. Your landing pages are good, and that you have some things for people to actually download and fill out forms. We've had a pretty good success with sharing things that aren't necessarily program related, that actually show some life on campus, some students doing things that they do every day when they're not in class. Our YouTube videos have been very successful. I think that visual elements have a lot more pull than just listing some things or writing some copy. We're really trying to focus right now on being more visual. We do things like faculty spotlights. This guy, I know this looks crazy, but he is an electronics instructor, and he has like the coolest office of all time, and he did this video that actually showed a lot of things that are in his office that students have made, or that he shows students because they walk by his office and they want to see it. So we thought this was something interesting for people who were interested in that field, and it was pretty fun. Let's see if I'm losing. I've lost control. Oh, there we go. This is an example of a landing page. Basically, we try to keep them pretty short and ask, basically the least amount of information at first that is needed. On this one, you have to be a certain age to apply for this program, so we do ask for birth date and things like that. But they actually fill out a form, get information about our truck driving academy, and then on the thank you page, they're given more information about contacts, and they're set up in a workflow. Like I said, we've really gone to, we're in the middle of a redesign right now, and we really want to focus on telling the stories of our students. Letting the faculty talk about what they do, Parents, a lot of times at things like scholarship receptions and stuff like that is great. Talking to successful alumni, things like that are really good for video or even for short stories and, that kind of thing. But we try to make everything really personal and at the same time address those pain points of people so they can actually relate to what we're talking about. So you want it to be educational. You want a visitor to leave knowing something they didn't know about you. And I think that the way to do that is not try to sell yourself. Show what you do. And I'll talk later. Some of the best content we've gotten are from students here. They're very willing to be on camera, and we're using this on the front page of our redesign. It's a video that has, I don't know, probably about 8 or so students talking about why they love Hinds, why they chose Hinds, and things like that. Basically, you're going from promotion to emotion. I mean, that's the point of inbound in general. Adding videos, it can increase your conversions by up to 86%. That's something that we really want to do more of as we progress with our redesign. But once you have content, I do suggest a small case study. We've done some different things. A while back, we did a case study with our nursing program. Enrollment was down, but they had the most leads and applicants, of any other program. So we actually met with them to try to figure out what the deal was. And a lot of people didn't have high enough ACT scores, and needed to actually go to ACT prep classes. And some, we knew would probably never be able to get in, and we pointed those people to other programs, and it really worked with workflows, and talking to these leads. We were able to increase enrollment and fill some courses that were having trouble. And so basically, once you do all of this, you have all of your financial information in there. Hopefully, you would be more successful in us in getting the loop closed with the CRM, but you're wanting to show results of a small project to the people who understand the bottom line. Our VP of Finance, is all about this now, but I think the important thing is having the dollar signs in the analytics, because people really, they understand money. And also, I think that you really have to educate everybody about inbound marketing and making decisions, based on data. Blogging, and I'll be honest, we don't always do the best job at this. We're working on doing better, but it brings more people to your site. You get a lot more links outside of your website. It gives you a lot more opportunities to get conversions, and we've done this a couple of different ways. We had some student bloggers, and some of their blog posts were really great. This was somebody who actually had just graduated, and so she wanted to share her experience and what Hinds had done for her, and it was a really good post. We also, in blog posts, on your web pages, on your landing pages, you're really, if you're not converting people, it doesn't matter if 1 million people come to your site. It actually drives me insane to see those kind of metrics, visits, unique page views, and things like that, because it doesn't matter if you're not converting those visitors. If you have 1 million unique page views, you should have close to 1 million students. But basically, you get leads by using forms, and you ask for information. And like I said, we try our best to start with as little as possible: a name, an email address. A lot of people don't want to give up their phone numbers at first, but we also work, as soon as we get them to fill out a form, we have smart form fields, so if they come back, the questions on the form changes, so we actually collect more and more data about them as they go through the site. I've already shown this one. And we actually do use HubSpot, and this is sort of what we see when a form is submitted. It gives all sorts of information, like what pages a person viewed, what area, life cycle stage they're in, when they first came to the site, and things like that. It also pulls in photos from their social media accounts. It gives you all sorts of information that allows you to do things like figure out your personas and tweak things as you go and figure out workflows. And actually, to get those leads, not just landing pages, work. We also work really hard to put calls to action in our blog post. This was done by an employee, and we make sure that we do link to different things that helps you. These people see, okay, Hinds has linked to us. Let's see what they've shared, and you get more links from people the more you link to their content. But the most important thing down here is the call to action. This is about a specific campus, and so we have a call to action that takes them to a landing page to learn more about that campus. And people don't realize how much the web, or how different the web is. Just search engine optimization alone, there's a 14.6 close rate. When you have outbound leads like direct mail, print ads, TV, radio, things like that, conversion rate is about 1.7%. So there's a huge difference. And that's just, SEO leads, people who find you on Google or Bing or whatever they like. And then, the personalization thing with the personas, and, knowing the situations that your prospects and students are in, you can use that information to personalize emails. And when you do that, you're going to get a much higher click-through rate and more conversions. And it actually will pull them through the funnel we talked about earlier, from visits all the way, down to graduates. You can, a lot of people come for information and they'll download stuff, but they haven't filled out an application or made another step. So nurturing emails are a big thing, and it can be very targeted to specific people. Here's sort of an example. It's going to pull the name of whoever you're sending it to, We do, this is a fairly early and basic email, so it does let them meet our recruiters and apply if they're ready. We try to keep our tone on these, fairly conversational, because nobody wants to read institutional sounding things. This one was really successful, and this was one of the ways that we actually got people to put themselves into persona categories. It's kind of a silly email. At one point I said we promise there aren't 100 questions, more like 3 or 4, and we just want to know more about these people. So we've sent it out. It was a really short email, and when they clicked it, it took them to a very short landing page. We told them why we wanted to know more about them, and let them choose, which option described them, and things like that. Another really big thing that worked on this in particular was the notes section, because people would, choose what described them, and then they would come down and write notes about, any problems they were having or anything they wanted more information about. So just having notes on there was a really huge thing to figure out more about people. This was another case study with online advertising. It's hard to compete with schools with huge budgets, proprietary schools. I don't know. I hope I didn't make anybody mad by saying that. But we've really used data for this, for placement, to figure out cost, what we should spend, and it was crazy what we got just by targeting things as closely as possible. In 10 days, we had a ton of ad views, a ton of clicks, and if we had continued, we would have had a 71.2 increase in leads at that point. We outperformed the proprietary schools in our area. Ignore that, proprietary school people, if you are listening. And our site traffic increased 34% over that time. So, Becky talked about delighting your students, your alumni. I think that things like having smart calls to action, smart content, email workflows, and actually social media are huge ways to do this. It's really interesting, because if you set it up correctly, this can help you retain students. Students love when you share social media posts that they have actually done about the college, especially Instagram right now. They have a fit when you go in and they've taken a really cool picture. We had one of some students that were chilling out with hacky sacks one day and skateboarding, and they love that. And that actually gets them to be more willing to tell their stories, to talk about activities that they're involved in, and that actually will kind of get them interested in doing some blogging too. And kind of in that vein is our use of social media. I think that we use it mostly to engage our followers, where we answer questions on Twitter and Facebook almost in real time. We do promote a lot of highlights, a lot of campus life stuff, and we also showcase some of our programs, tell people about events, things that are coming up, and we measure everything. some of these tools, Twitter has great analytics that will tell you all sorts of things: their interests, their location, their gender, how they've engaged with us. So we really keep up with all of that stuff, so we can kind of mix it all together to get a better picture of what our student body, or what our prospects, not only who they are, but what they're actually interested in and where they are. That's a lot of analytics. But, we keep up with everything from landing pages to our Pinterest profiles. This is Twitter stuff that shows gender, who our followers follow, where they're located. Apparently, a lot of guys like NFL football, their top interests, music, things like that you would, expect. Social media produces 2 times the marketing leads of trade shows, telemarketing, direct mail, or pay-per-click, which is pretty amazing. Other ways, we use this, we put some silly stuff out there, we make whatever memes are going around, we always use that kind of thing. Every once in a while, we'll have a contest. We do, promote some programs. We try to do as little as little of that. You throw that kind of thing in among the fun stuff. We do spotlights of faculty, staff, and students. Highlight campus life, things that are going on. We have 6 locations, so our social media specialist is quite busy. Mm-hmm. And we do promote, partnerships with businesses, our different programs, and everything sends people who click to a landing page where they can find more information. One thing that's really helpful is that we do answer questions on Twitter and Facebook in pretty close to real time. If not real time, it's close. And they'll, students ask all kinds of questions, and we try to help them and tell them, okay, if you want to know about financial aid, this is, when you're going to get your refund, and who to contact if there's an issue. People want to know basic things like, when they can start registering. So we get a lot of questions, and I think it builds our audience because they see that we're responding to people when they ask us stuff. After all of this is done, to me, the most important thing is your data. You have to keep up with your metrics, see what works, and if there are things that can work better, you have to optimize those things. I'm also a big fan of A/B testing, so if there's a chance that something else might work better, we can run those against each other and see what the best route is to go in. But I really think that the lead nurturing aspect, the email workflows and stuff like that, is a huge part of this. And this, you have to have buy-in. You have to have everybody on the same page for this to work. 79% of your leads aren't going to apply, or at least aren't going to show up at school. So, people who aren't good at nurturing their leads are going to have issues. We do automate everything with HubSpot, and it kind of tells you that you should see a 10% or greater increase in revenue within 6 to 9 months. And I will say this came from Gartner research, And I'll tell you this, in higher ed, all of this stuff is going to take far more time because we don't have the, we don't have the marketing budgets. We don't have, resources to pay huge salaries, to people who can just come in and get all of this working in 6 months. But once you get started, you're really going to see an increase in the amount of leads you get. And once that starts, you can just keep making things better. And this really, is part of the email nurturing stuff. If you're good at it, you can get 50% more sales-ready leads at a 33% lower cost. Who doesn't like that? That's a good thing. Always use tracking URLs. This is one good thing about inbound. You can track everything. It's harder and nearly impossible to track outbound methods, but you can go in and you can see, okay, this person came here from a social account, and it was actually Twitter. So we make sure that when we do send out landing page links or things like that to Twitter or whatever, that we are actually tracking where it comes from. You can have back control.
Yeah, so I think we wanted to leave you before we start taking some questions. So if you have questions, start typing them in. I think we wanted to leave you guys with just this idea. This is actually from one of the marketers that was surveying when HubSpot did their State of Inbound Marketing survey last year. And somebody actually came out and said, we want to move to where the market's going, not where it's been. I think that's a big deal with inbound marketing, and I think it's where the market is now and really where it's going in the future. I don't see any kinds of trends of people saying, you know what, as a consumer, I would like less control. I just want to, be at the mercy of any kind of marketer out there. It's really moved into a place where once we've opened it, Pandora's box is open and it's not really going to change and go back. So it's time for us all to kind of be on that page. So thank you, Jill, for all of that great information. We would love to take questions now from folks. It looks like there's a couple coming in already. Give me 1 second to catch up on these. Oh, here's one that looks like it was, I'm thinking this is for Jill from back a little ways. How do you determine the cost of acquisition?
Well, it depends really on, what you're focusing on. If it's pay-per-click, is very easy to tell. If you're doing online ads, you'll see what you're actually spending per click, what you're spending per conversion, and then if you have closed marketing set up, you can see how much it costs to get a student enrolled. It's hard to do any other way. But basically, you can look at what you're spending in marketing and, what you're bringing in and figuring out what cost it's taking to bring in the applicants you need, that are going to become students. It just takes a little bit of digging.
Right. I think it's also helpful, the one of the last slides that Jill showed had some of that campaign tracking on the end of it for analytics, for Google Analytics. Being able to really attribute those things correctly and making sure that you're doing that kind of tracking will help with that as well. Wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. Another question. Who's responsible for managing your CRM and pulling the data?
Well, right now, it's IT manages the CRM. Actually, I pull the data right now, and will even after our integration is completed. So yes, that would be me.
Awesome. Can you effectively do inbound marketing without a CRM? What do you think?
Um, hmm, I think so. I think you can. Depends on how large you are. Um, like I said, we use HubSpot. HubSpot just came out with a new CRM. Um, it depends on, your college, your size, but really, I think that, it's helpful to have a CRM that pulls in information from your applicants and where you can pull data from. And
Yeah.
it's really helpful when you have that, bidirectional information going back and forth from an inbound marketing platform to a CRM and back, so you know when things close.
Okay, cool. The follow-up on that one is that they're at 17,000 students. They're continuing education college. So that's pretty large.
Um, that's pretty large. I would have a CRM for that. Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for, Cheryl? Is to say yes, get a CRM? Um, I have got actually a couple of questions that I believe Lee Fitzgerald from HubSpot is on the call. We're HubSpot partners, and I've got two questions here. Hold on a second. Let's see if we can hear her. See if I can unmute her. Maybe I can't. Oh, there she is. Lee, are you there? Lee? No? Oh, I believe she's listening in. We have two questions that are specific about pricing, so I can let you guys follow up with that later. But it's basically, is there educational or pricing for HubSpot, and what do you pay for HubSpot? So I know those are pretty specific questions. Um,
Yeah.
and
I believe it depends on your size
yeah,
and how many contacts you have and stuff like that.
cool, great. Any other questions coming in? Cool. Our contact information for both Jill and I are on the screen here. I want to give Jill a huge thank you for showing this to us and sharing this with all of us. And as I said, we've recorded the webinar. So we will send that out to you in the next several days when it's available to watch and share. And please do follow up if you have questions. I'm going to actually pass along those specific HubSpot ones to Lee so she can talk to you guys specifically about the educational pricing and stuff. And yeah, thank you guys so much for